Welcome back to Wedlocked and Loaded.
Wedlocked and loaded.
You women.
Do not lump us all in one category.
So you girls, and lie and stretch the truth and try
girls,
to get us jammed up.
First of all, I'm a whole ass woman, right? Think about
no
that.
No disrespect.
Sounds like it to me. So why can't y'all? What is it with men that they just can't walk away?
Depends how good it is. You don't want to give that away.
So greetings, everyone. New episode of Wedlocked and Loaded. I am Daniel Laurent.
And I am Leah Nicole.
And we have a special guest. We have Nick, is it Brancato?
Yes.
Brancato. Okay. So you call yourself a relationship systems architect, right?
Yes.
And a personal development coach and also author. Oh my God, the book. I'm going to get the book because I need to have the book. And I feel so unprepared that I don't have the book. All right. Okay. So if you can explain what that actually means, a relationship systems architect, like what do you mean by that exactly?
Sure. Basically, I design frameworks to facilitate relationship growth. And I developed a structured, data-driven approach to relationships because love alone isn't enough.
It never is.
Never.
When you say frameworks, can you just break that down just a little bit, just for those who might not know what you mean by that?
Sure, absolutely. When I say I design frameworks to facilitate relationship growth, basically it means that I create and implement systems that allow people to make decisions either in real time or predetermined decisions beforehand that allow them to get an outcome that they desire. So for example, a framework could be as simple as having a morning beverage ritual with your partner where you take 5 to 10 minutes and you just have high quality time with no screens with each other. It could be a system as simple as that, or as complicated as the Prioritize Us test, where you compare all your priorities and get a score, and it leads you to have certain conversations that facilitate relationship growth.
Awesome. Okay. So do you want to jump right into the Prioritize Us test? Or do you
No.
want to ask? Okay, I'm sorry. He went there just really quickly. So I wasn't sure.
So listen, so this is a part of the deal. Sometimes, and it's usually the man that's, usually stereotyped as we like to get right into it, right? And there's no courting and all the other goodies. She wants to jump right in. No. So we have some layers.
I understand.
All right. So there was something that you said that I wanted to ask you. And this was in a book, in the beginning of the book. Most couples don't argue because they lack love, but they do not agree on what matters the most. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but can you expound on that a little bit?
Sure. It's usually not a lack of love that breaks up couples. It's misaligned priorities. So typically in the beginning of a relationship, people are very attracted to each other. Love might come quickly. Certainly attraction does. And love follows shortly thereafter often. And that love, sometimes it grows. It typically grows without the relationship because you're spending more time together. You're learning more about each other. And yet over time, you still encounter conflict. And that kind of conflict that comes up, it comes up because of things that are unspoken and because of things that have changed that you haven't checked in on.
It definitely sounds familiar in this household.
It really does. I speak a lot about unspoken expectations because those are a real thing.
For who?
The people in this. But I think it's across the board, right? Like it's not. I think it's not per one couple. I think it those unspoken expectations are, I don't know. They expand around, like everybody has them, right?
Like prejudices.
Right. Or biases. I like that better, right? And just because we are in a relationship with each other, just because we know each other, we love each other, we expect our partner to know and understand every single thing that, A, might irritate us, B, might make us feel, unloved or unwanted. And the list can go on, right? But when you don't have those, or when you know how to speak through those, it makes the relationship a lot easier, right?
Absolutely. Those unspoken expectations that's such an important point, because our goal is always to make the invisible visible. So one of the outcomes we seek with the Prioritize Us test, and just even identifying your own personal priorities and ranking them, is to focus on areas that a lot of couples don't talk about. For example, two of the priorities are sex and spirituality, which you might think everybody talks about because they're so important in a relationship, but many couples, they spend years and they don't really get into those topics hardcore.
Right. Exactly.
Pun intended.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned in another interview being hard. Well, no pun intended. You being hard on yourself and not giving yourself grace. Can you give an example of that when you feel like you was in the thick of it?
Oh, sure. The way I used to be hard on myself was I would name call, first of all. So I would say things like, I suck if this, or I'm the worst if that, I'm terrible. I used to call myself all kinds of profanity, just whatever. I would link a particular adjective or name with a certain outcome. So for me to not be that, I would have to execute, basically. And so I would bully myself into doing whatever I decided to do, instead of having a much more positive approach. So when it was sports, I would say, if I don't get in the batting cage this long, then I suck, or I deserve to strike out, or I deserve to lose, or I deserve to not excel. I deserve to be mediocre if I don't do these things. So I would bully myself into doing pretty much everything in life. And when I was in the thick of things, that really shifted a lot for me, because I sort of, all ego disappeared when health and mental health and safety become a huge priority. Then things tend to drastically change.
So if you were doing that to yourself, which, one of the interviews I watched, the gentleman was saying, he actually would do it to himself, right? I don't know if I so much have a problem with that. I mean, I think it could be abusive if you don't at some point find some sort of grace and reflections on your progress. But I guess my question to you is is it very easy, if you are used to doing that action for yourself, for that energy and those words to be transferred over to your partner, right? So if Leah doesn't do something that I consider simple, and I'm like, what's I mean, the extreme example could be, what's wrong with you? Are you dumb? Right? Or it could be like, come on, what is wrong with you? Right? But I'm used to talking to myself that way. So I don't really find anything wrong with that. Like, what do you say? What do you say to that?
Wow, that's so powerful, because how you talk to yourself is ultimately what you're comfortable with other people talking to you, and how you talk to them. So if you're harsh on yourself, you're going to be harsh on other people. And when they're harsh on you, you're going to expect it back. And self-care is so important to your mental health. And when I used to teach high school and adults and eventually poker, one of the things that I would always focus on is the way I would want to teach my students and talk to them is how I want to talk to myself. So even when I coach sports or anything like that, or coach poker, it's always about positive reinforcement rather than emphasizing the negative. You get so much better outcomes when you focus on the positive. You don't need to be like a drill sergeant to yourself. And that's what I was being.
Okay.
And I think the way a lot of people are raised, maybe especially men, competitive sports and things like that,
You have to win.
you have to win, and name calling is all like part of it. It's like you have to get tough skin. You can't let your opponents shake you mentally in certain ways. And women experience this socially, maybe even more than men, with name calling, and they beat each
Body
other
shaming.
up. Exactly. Mean
Yeah.
girls and things like that.
Well, seeing you brought up, and this is perfect. It couldn't have been more timely. So you brought up poker, right? So you arrived at the relationship coaching from poker, right? But what I have looked into in poker, some of the top 3 considerations are table stakes, and I'll just explain it for people that don't know. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you are the expert in this space. So table stakes, you can only bet the amount of chips you have on the table at the start of the hand. Bluffing, a common strategy where players bet aggressively, even with a weak hand, to try to win the pot. Or slow playing, a strategy where players bet weakly with a strong hand to try and trap the other players. So I only bring this up because that is a part of your story, to come from, teaching and coaching poker players. But what do you say to someone that takes those lessons or those rules in poker and literally tries to apply them in a relationship? Because I feel like that's the literal opposite of what you like. You shouldn't have a relationship where you're bluffing, right? I mean, she does it to me all
Yes.
the time, and it causes arguments. However, you shouldn't bluff. You shouldn't do slow playing.
Yes. Poker is all about deception. And that's the opposite of what you want in your relationship. You want honesty. You want transparency.
Mhm.
I told her.
And, and so if you try to apply the things that you apply at the poker table to your relationship, it's probably not going to be a very good one, because one of the other principles in poker is just aggression. Aggression wins when you don't have a strong enough hand. And so if you apply aggression to your relationship, it's going to have all kinds of negative outcomes. You really want to be curious in your relationship, and you want to be nurturing, and you want to be positive, and you want to keep the strategies on the poker table. You want to keep it separate, and you want to have relationship strategies, but you don't want to have like you don't want to be manipulative at all. You don't want to have strategies that are trying to get your partner to do something that you want them to do.
I mean, if I'm taking her to dinner and we're having a good time,
we'll save that.
You know what I mean.
I get where you're going with that one.
We'll save that, and I'm gonna tell you and all the other men listening how you talk yourself out that good time. Okay.
This
sorry.
tea is so good.
Yeah, I bet it is. The book 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman explores the theory of it being 5 love languages that we communicate and relate to each other. Your book is the Prioritize Me test, and your book in itself is just a bit different, right? Because it focuses on priorities. What brought you to that perspective?
So I'm glad you brought up the love languages, because that's another important aspect of relationships. And love languages really tell you how you love, and Prioritize Us and the total difference score, the TDS, it tells you why your relationship succeeds or fails. So it's more about the root causes of what's going on in your relationship. So by identifying your priorities and talking about them and seeing where you're alike, you can figure out where your strengths are. What are your pillars of your relationship? And then where you're different, where are miscommunications likely to occur? What has been unspoken? And where is conflict most likely to stem from?
Now, let me ask you, this was a question that we had for a little later, but we'll insert it here.
Oh, now you want to.
Oh, boy. Is there any value to a person reading this on their own and giving themselves the foundation test, and maybe even checking in, every 3 months, every 6 months? Because I would think that the priorities might change a little bit. Is there value to that?
Are you in a relationship?
Absolutely. That's such a great question.
You
Yes,
see, he
there's-
said it was a good question, man.
Okay.
So,
But are you in a relationship with yourself?
sometimes
Okay. You might be. Right. Go ahead.
it's gonna be a long one.
so
Welcome to Wedlock and Load.
I love it. So there's value in taking the test for yourself, identifying your own personal priorities. Unless you know yourself, you can't hope to know other people. And so many people, they think they know what other people are thinking. They think they know what other people are doing and why. They think they understand the motives. And really, they don't even understand themselves. They don't even know what they usually do and why. It's just like at the poker table. Most poker players think they know what their opponents are holding most of the time, and they have no idea. They don't even usually know what they would have in that situation. And that's where a lot of fundamental poker instruction comes from, is what do you do in the situation before you can understand what someone else does.
Right. You know, it's interesting because we've been married for quite some time. We've been together for even longer time, right?
Since the dinosaurs.
Yeah, more time. And I think today I was able to actually, maybe not today, maybe like this week I was actually able to.
See why you love me so much? Damn.
No. I was actually able to see how our relationship changed once we got married, right? In the very beginning, right? So early on in our relationship, you know, we started off as friends, and you know, we do have a lot of the same morals, right, and values. But anyway, we started off as friends, and then sometimes, like, he would have a very strong opinion about something, and he would voice that opinion. However, I didn't always voice my objection to his opinion, right? A lot of times for me, it was just, oh, you need to rant? Go ahead, say whatever you need to say. Most of the time, I probably wasn't listening anyway. I'll be very honest, unfortunately.
Flag on the play.
And I think that's what got us this far.
That's
but
not good, though. That's not anything to be proud of and bang your chest.
Of course. Listen.
Talk about poker playing and bluffing, right?
If I had a strong aversion to something, then I would speak on it, right? But if it wasn't a big deal, listen, that's your opinion. There's no need to go back and forth. I'm not trying to change that of you, so it doesn't matter, right? However, once we got married, I would say, like, in that first year, I mean, I think along with people saying, hey, you know, you guys are our favorite couple. So we had that pressure from the outside, right? But then there were certain things and there were certain opinions that he would express that I would just be like, sir, what? Absolutely not, right? But now, because he wasn't used to me objecting those or, you know, butting against those opinions or differences, he's trying to figure out, well, what the heck just happened here? You know, you're usually so compliant, but he took my silence as compliance, which is not, you know.
Because she's a contrarian, literally. So
I'm not. I just see things from multiple perspectives, and I compartmentalize almost everything in my life, which really quickly I will say, doing this TDS, did I say that right? Sorry.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Doing the TDS assignment, I was like, this is crazy. I can't do this, right? Only because for me, certain things went in certain categories, right? Like if I don't have X, and we can go way, way into it later when we get to that part for real.
No,
for real.
we are.
But if I don't have X, okay, so
listen, all right. So
okay, go ahead, show the book.
Yes. So in the book, right, it's in there, Prioritize Us. There is a test that you could take, and I believe it's on page 36, maybe 37, but 36 is where it starts. So it's encouraged for the couples to take the test separately and then come together and kind of match. And then depending on where you rank said things, you will look at the differences. You know, if one ranks 3 and the other one ranks 1, is a 2 difference, and et cetera, et cetera. So we took the test.
All right, and I'm going to give.
Are you going to read all the names?
I'm going to read the list.
Okay.
Right.
So the list of the 10 core priorities.
Right. Are career, communication, entertainment, finances, growth, health, relationships, safety, sex, and spirituality. Right?
Wait, I just realized. Should that be in there? Is that okay? Or do you want us to
Yeah, that's totally okay. Absolutely.
Okay. I just realized that she was reading it. I was like, wait a minute, should we just give like a couple? I mean,
Yeah,
the book,
if people want to take the test at home just on paper without the book, they certainly can. Also, for a limited time, if they go to nickbrancato.com, they can get the ebook for free.
I saw that, and I was going to ask you. Yes. So, yep, I saw that. Okay, so that's the 10 core priorities. So you take them separately and then come together. Yeah. And we came together and we clashed.
Kind of.
We shouldn't even be sitting here together.
That's still not true.
It was a bad clash.
You're so, why are you exaggerating so much?
True.
That's another thing he does, but we're not going to get into
Sex
that.
was number 1 for me, and it was
liar.
number 10 for her.
You are a liar. Do not lie to the good people. Okay?
All right. So I'm exaggerating a little bit.
A little bit.
However, when we took the test, without going into like all the different numbers.
No. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Do you even have time for this?
It's
absolutely. I'm all yours.
All right. So how is it best to do it? Should we like read one and then she gives her number and I give mine? Is that easier?
Yeah, it's probably easiest for people listening if you go priority by priority and say where you ranked it on a scale of 1 to 10.
All right. So I gotta find my thing. All right. So you do the first one.
Okay. So I struggle with placing health and spirituality 1 and 2.
Come on, no disclaimers, man. Just get to the business.
Stop. Okay, I struggled with placing spirituality and health, right, as number 1. But I have spirituality as number 1.
What?
That you're number 7.
Spirituality number 1. Oh, so do you have all the numbers?
I have yes.
All right, so you can just read it. All right, that's fine.
No, that's that. I might have wrote it down wrong.
Babe, let's do it this way so people can understand.
So my number 1 is spirituality.
So she has that as number 1. For me, I have that as number 7. So that's a 6-point difference.
Wow. Okay.
Number 2 is health.
I have health as number 1. So that's
a core value that you both share, a core priority. That's like a pillar of your relationship. You both value health.
Yeah. I have growth for number 3.
Now I struggled with that because
now you want to put a disclaimer.
No, because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure as a guy, are we talking about a certain kind of growth, or I wasn't sure. So I struggled with it. So I just said, all right. So growth for me was number 8.
Crazy. Finances was number 4, but it's really not, right?
All right.
But I have it for number 4, but go ahead.
I have it for number 3. So that's close.
Yeah, it's very close. A 1.
Mm-hmm. Relationship is number 5 for me. Relationships are number 5 for me.
I have it as number 6.
Communication is number 6.
I have that as number 4.
Safety is 7.
I have it as number 10.
Crazy. Sex is 8.
I have it as number 5. Shocker there, huh?
Entertainment is 9.
And we both have entertainment as 9.
And career is 10 for me.
And I have it as number 2.
Okay.
So our total score is 30, which is in the book as divergent. And
right. So it's because you have 2 main differences going on. One is your career, right? That's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And the other difference was
safety, I think.
Safety, and I feel like sex. Well, sex
was a 3-point difference.
A 3-point difference. and think spirituality. What did you have for
Spirituality. Oh, you had number 1 for spirituality.
Yeah,
I had
That
it
was
for
a big
7.
one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So addressing spirituality and career are going to be going to be very important. But before we address that, I want to focus on where you guys are similar, because even though your score was high, you actually have a lot of similarities. So when just a couple priorities are very off, but there's a lot of overlap, that means that you guys have good pillars in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would start with the pillars and then address the differences. So did you guys talk about them at all? Not yet.
No, we did not.
We wanted to save it and let it be fresh. And also, I didn't want to sleep in a doghouse tonight.
No, you know how to talk your way into there. So this wouldn't have done it. I think for me, like, you know, like when I think of spirituality, it's, you know, I definitely believe in a higher power, but I also believe in the exchanges of energy, right? And for me, with those exchanges of energy, that also plays a big part in my romantic relationship, but also my friendships, right? And so does safety, and so does the communication, right? Like I can't talk to you if I don't feel safe sharing with you, right? I can't connect with you if we don't have a positive exchange of energy on, you know, when we initially meet, right? So because of that, I was like, I don't know. This is. It felt very overwhelming to try to like separate them, and you know, although I have no problem with compartmentalize, and I think that's the part of my brain that was trying to compact them to compact the different things together.
Do you have that often? Do you have that feedback often from couples of like really having a hard time of trying to?
So everybody's different. It puts you in very vulnerable spots to take the test. It puts you in vulnerable situation with yourself because you have to define things and think about things in ways you might not have done before or might not be comfortable with. And then it's vulnerable to share the list with your partner because you're like, are they going to want me to change my priorities? And that's not what it's about. It's about being curious and asking, why is it important to you? And sometimes it's just a matter of shared vocabulary, like your take on spirituality and being a part of all your connections with every person is very interesting. That's not what I usually hear. Yeah. I've heard it before, but not to the extent that it plays a role for you. So I understand that it's a relationship with a higher power, but it's also the energetic relationship. Yeah. And so that's interesting for sure. Yeah. And I'm sure that's not how you think of spirituality at all.
Daniel.
Me?
Yeah.
No, not in that way. I would separate spirituality with the higher power and kind of just meditating and being in touch versus the exchanges that I have with people. I do believe like giving people hugs because I've started being mindful of that. I don't like
people touching me.
Even me. So
no, like
no, you don't like that. That's fine, babe.
Well, I don't like you touching me when I don't like you in the moment, right? So that's very different.
That's not
when
even,
I like you.
That shouldn't even be a thing.
Of course it is. We're married. That's what happens.
Unfortunately. So, you know, exchanging with people, like I'm more mindful now of like giving people hugs, right? But when I give people hugs, because it's a hug, it's not like the little and the little pat. Like I don't like that. So, you know, the transfer of energy and giving hugs is really, really important because I remember a person that was really special to me that Leah knows was special to her also as a former teacher. And when she gave you a hug, it was like,
it was a real embrace.
It was like, oh my God, like I'm safe, right? So I carry that my whole life. So I don't do, and I call people out on it when we do it. Or there's a friend of mine who, you know, I love and I adore. She's so special to me. When I see her, and it's for a few different reasons, but she's a little busty, right? She's typically used to giving side hugs. And I get it. I don't like it. So I called her out on it years ago, and she's so used to doing it. We just seen each other recently. I called her on again. She's like, "Oh my God, all right." So anyway, when it comes to spirituality, I look at that more centered than the exchange part. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I will ask you,
why is your career?
Well, okay, so what's interesting, and that's why I said taking a test yourself and then retesting yourself every 3 months or 6 months. I'll say this because it's not a secret on this show, and then it leads to something I wanted to ask you. So Leah has a concussion, right?
So be very clear. So I had a concussion. What I'm dealing with now is called post-concussion syndrome.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did I know that?
You should.
I mean,
but
so
I still have the symptoms of the concussion.
But it's the recovery of it.
But yeah.
And so therefore, that's thus the glasses. She's not being vain. Even though
it must be really hard. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, this is not fun at all.
It's life changing, but the thing is, hopefully, and it is temporary. It just takes some people longer. So I bring that up to say, Leah, in addition to being an educator, she also is an entrepreneur and has her own event planning company, right? And so she has a certain level of independence where she's used to moving. She has her own car, right? And so that has completely changed where now she can't drive. I'm driving her everywhere because even if it's bright, and one will say, well, just drive at night, but then the headlights are even worse. So literally, I'm driving her everywhere, to and from and whatever, which I, in addition to my job, I do music stuff and film stuff and advocacy stuff and clothing brand stuff and blah, blah, blah. So just adds
we're
everything.
Two creative entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I can relate.
So,
who have full-time jobs.
And with parents. And
we're husband and wife.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole job in itself, and nobody really talks about that.
Well, yeah, that's definitely
until we do.
And so the reason why I rated it that way is because literally, I mean, her life has definitely changed first and foremost, but mine has certainly changed, and it has me looking at career-wise of, what I was doing and making was fine at one point, but if Leah is not able to contribute anything at all, am I able to sustain everything, right? Which is on the top of my list. However, I'm not going to go and all of a sudden be a car salesman, right? Like, I want to make sure that what I'm doing is somewhat in line with what a passion is, or like what my, morals or whatever, right? So that's why so for me, let me just pull up. So health, because of Leah, right? That's like top of the priority of like seeing just how fast something can change, literally, right? And this happened to her like, mid-November or end of November. And so she's still dealing with this now, right? So health is first, career second, finances, I mean, that could be interchangeable. Finances could easily be two.
But I wanted you to focus on career because that's one of the ones that are like polar opposite. So for me, and it's funny, so we haven't ranked, so we did not talk about this, but I was very, very interested in why it was so different. For me, my career is last because, just as you stated, right? Like I'm out of work right now. I'm like, damn. I'm out of work right now, and
just what the future holds.
It's like it's a lot of uncertainty. However, like it also brought me back to when I was, when I was a teenager, or when I was a teen, or adolescent, we'll call it, right? I remember my great grandmother, she was like, oh, what are you doing for work now? Like, you change your job like you change your underwear, right? And and it's not that, you know, having a career is not important to me, but I think as my situation right now, where it seems like things are kind of like in limbo, and you know, kind of, you know, I also remember like my grandmother would be like, you know, always do your best. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you do, go ahead and give it 100%, right? However, don't let anyone run you to the ground, because they'll run you to the ground and they'll leave you there.
Mm.
Right? And so right now I feel like I was running into the ground, right? And I feel like I've been left there. But as a creative, I can literally, as a creative and with spiritual guidance, like I can find a way to make money. Like I don't have to be committed to working someone else's 9 to 5 in order to generate income.
Yeah, interesting.
Right.
Have you encountered that? Like, so with the career portion, is that typically such a far gap with couples that you've seen?
But it's so funny. Sorry. So can I just say this really quickly before this leaves my mind? It's funny because they're literally on the opposite spectrum, but for the same reason.
Mm.
So this is interesting.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So for one thing, career is also wrapped up in finances and safety.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was tricky.
So although you have safety ranked differently, you also have career ranked differently, and career does mean safety at this point,
mm-hmm.
because it means security, right?
Right.
So so it's not as divergent as it seems. Also, if it might not be a literal career, where when you're ranking it, it could be whatever. It could be a passionate career. It could be whatever career you're using to earn revenue. So your existing job might not be a high priority right now, or your old job might not be a high priority right now, but career and
earning
income might be a higher priority to you soon.
Yeah.
And so what's going to happen is your total different score number is going to come down, and you're going to align a little bit more just because of the vocabulary.
Yeah.
And so you guys are much more complementary than you feel after originally taking the test. Where you're
different. I you know, it is what it is.
Right. So I would say you're going to be much more complementary, and you're going to have a lower score when you take the test again. And I would take it again soon with new vocabulary, just to see where you're at and have that be your baseline.
I like that.
For moving forward in a few months. It's common for career to be far apart. Often one person works and is very career driven, and the other works part-time or is less career driven if they do work, or they're at home, or they're doing homeschooling nowadays and raising the kids. Homeschooling is very common now, as I'm sure you're aware, and a lot of the couples that I work with. And so one couple that I work with.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Will you stop?
No, not at all.
So let me ask you this, because I shared, not that it's a secret on the show because we've talked about it, but I shared Leah's condition. I wanted to ask you, was there ever hesitation of sharing your wife's health challenges and diagnosis, or did you feel it was pivotal to the story and to the mission?
Great.
And how did that even go? Because I would assume that you talked to her about it and then just, like, hey guys. So, can you share what was that like? And if you want to tell the people.
That's a great question. So my wife was diagnosed with schizophrenia. She has paranoid schizophrenia, and it came from a really awful time when she was having symptoms before it was diagnosed. We had no idea what was going on. And so she was experiencing extreme paranoia to the point where she wouldn't eat food because she thought it was tainted and she
Wow.
lost like a third of her body weight. We were just so scared. And through this tumultuous period, what happened is our priorities began to align. Health and safety became the highest priority for both of us. And so for the first time in our lives, all the petty things fell to the wayside. We weren't worried about the surface level arguments anymore. We were focused on the big things. And so we talked a lot about whether or not we should share her story, whether or not people should even know about her diagnosis, because it's so misunderstood. Things with mental health.
Shame.
Yeah, there's so much misunderstanding and shame around it, but she really wanted to help other people, and so did I. And the story is pivotal to where everything came from. And it's like if my journey with my wife taught me that when priorities are clear, relationships thrive, even the most difficult circumstances. So it's about when tragedy strikes and when you're in a really hard situation, it's even more of a time to talk about your priorities and really realign, because one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about is how they spend their time and whether or not it's in alignment with their priorities. So one of my goals for myself and for my wife and our relationship and for everyone that I work with is for our actions to be in alignment with our intentions. So you want to do what you say you're going to do, what you think you're going to do, and what you believe you're doing. So when people first rank their priorities, the next thing I ask them to do is to rank how much time they spend on each priority per week. So you look at the list of priorities. Now, how much time do you spend on each one? And what you find is that, like, you'll see things like entertainment is a low priority, but tens of hours are spent per week on it, passively consuming content or scrolling that you're not learning from. And so it's like, if those hours were reallocated, where would you put them? Where would you put them to something that's a higher priority?
I love that. So I think, yeah, okay. So we have to, so there's follow-ups. I like that.
Yeah, that could be. So I know, like, where did I put my entertainment? I put it next to sex, because sometimes sex is entertainment.
If it's done right.
That's right.
It's still entertainment.
Oh my God.
It was a compliment, and then she yanked it back.
You know, Leah, you're
oh yeah, it's number 9.
You're precious.
Yeah, and sex is 8. Yeah.
Let me ask you, what do you say to what do you say regarding, I can't find another word for it, so I'll just say, what do you say to people that use the general terms of, communication is the most important thing in a relationship, or safety is the most important thing in a relationship? And the reason why I'm asking and framing it that way is communication for me looks different than communication for Leah, and safety for me looks different than safety for Leah. And that was one of our biggest contentions of the ways that in which she wanted to be protected. I wasn't protecting her. And so it took me a while to really understand that safety is not just locking the doors and making sure you have a baseball bat by the door and you're on guard, right? It's an all-encompassing thing. So what would you say in your own language and experience when it comes to general terms like that are like, umbrellas almost?
That's a really good question. So one of the things is, that's why the conversations after taking the test are so important, because it's critical to understand what safety means to each of you, why it's high, why it's low, or whatever the case may be. So getting the common language is a huge part to improving your communication. And I would say that it's not so much that safety or communication are the most important things in a relationship. I wouldn't generalize it like that, but I would say that connection is the most important thing. And these factors contribute, and every relationship is unique and different. And it's about finding out what the formula is for your relationship. Like, what are the variables that add up to the connection being strong? And if that's communication, if communication plays a role, what kind of communication? Is it a check-in? Like, does a text keep the connection strong, or does it not impact it at all? Does a 5 minutes in the morning before you get out of bed sort of impact it? Is that a kind of connection that impacts it? Does having a drink together, a nightcap before bed when you're alone and the kids are down and no screens, does that impact it? What does communication look like? What does quality time look like? What are the connection points? And then I would say, after you can figure out what strengthens your connection, you can build little habits and rituals around those things so that you become unconsciously competent at doing them, so that you build these habits and put them into place, and you create an upward spiral where everything that you do, every decision that you make to put something into place, a little system, a little hack, whatever you want to call it, that they build on each other. And before you know it, your relationship is way stronger and more consistently.
Right. And I think, like, especially like right now, for me, I feel like, because I'm so reliant on him, and it's like, that's a new feeling, like that's a new space for me. I feel like I'm trying to think of the word. I almost feel guilty, right? Even though, like, these things are like out of my control, right? And so I think, like, one day, like a couple of weeks ago, after an appointment, we went to dinner, and just kind of we needed to eat, but also just trying to get some resemblance of life back, right? I realized that we sat at the table and we talked about our children for a large portion of time that we were having dinner, which for me, in my mind, was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I want to focus on us, and not us about, talking about, upcoming appointments or anything like that, just us, and just good time us, right? That was my goal, right? And except for when we were there, we spent a lot of time talking about the children. And what ended up happening is, at the end, I was like, so the next time we do this, there's no kid talk, But what happened was, I ended up leaving a little upset because it didn't go the way that I wanted, the night to go, which was to have a happy ending. But because I was so, like, turned off by the conversation, it was just like, man, just take me home. Like, I'm all set. When I get home, I'm already tired, and I'm not even gonna fight this. I'm just going to bed.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that. So I lost my. No, there was a reason.
Well, you was talking about you feel guilty.
No, I know. No, there was a reason. I was trying to make a connection. It'll come back. Hopefully.
I'm glad you brought it up, because reaching a shared vision is important, not only for the future, but in everyday activities. So one of the things that I encourage you guys to do is just to set a frame around whatever you're doing before you do it. It's almost like setting an intention before a yoga practice or a meditation. Set a frame, set a shared vision for what you want the night to look like, the dinner, or it could just be the meal, or it could be the whole sequence of events. Like, what does it look like? What's the positive outcome you're trying to get? And what's the fun or enjoyable part in between that leads to that outcome? So, like, what are we talking about? Where are we eating? What's the ambiance like? What are we wearing? Are we dressing up? Are we super casual? What does the evening look like to both of us before we ever get ready or start to do it? And it doesn't have to be so detailed. It could take 10 seconds. It could take a couple minutes. It's also part of, like, dreaming together and fantasizing together. It's like, let's envision our future tomorrow. Let's envision our future a year from now. What does tomorrow night look like? And it's just a nice bid for connection, where you're able to get a shared context for what's important to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I want to ask you, considering, and so this isn't to share, details. So I guess more high level. What do you say about couples either that have been together or are courting each other to discuss political views in this space. And I say that because talking about, you know, foundations and principles and different things like that, if someone is so misaligned, I think it's not even going to matter where you rank career and relationship and growth if you're so far on, you know. So what do you think about that? What do you talk to couples about?
Terrific question. So I want to differentiate between priorities and values.
Yeah.
So values are beliefs
Yeah.
and that are mostly staple throughout your life. Once you're an adult and you form your belief system, it changes usually only gradually over time, unless something really traumatic happens where there's a big shift or a massive realization or something. So priorities change day to day. Priorities ask the question, what's important to me now? So that's why frequent check-ins on priorities are beneficial, because it drifts over time and it changes drastically over time. Your beliefs are the core of who you are. And if you have differing belief systems, that's going to be something that you're going to have a lot of difficulty reconciling, unless you have excellent communication and you're very accepting of each other's different views, where you're not trying to change them, you understand them. But when people have very different views on politics or spirituality, when those two things are at odds, it can be very hard to sustain a relationship that's mutually beneficial long term, unless you address it in the beginning.
And that's, you know, and it's always interesting because people like, I'll listen to a radio show and they'll go over like first date encounters, right? Or they'll like talk about like, he brought up politics, and people are like, you never talk about politics on the first date. And part of me agrees, but then it's like, well, do you talk about it a year in? Like, what do you? I mean, I feel like where we are now, I feel like you're one way or the other, and I feel you might as well just like know now, so there's no surprises later on, because I don't want that to come out when I'm on top of you, and you know, it's like the time to say surprise, baby. So I wanted to ask you that.
That's a terrific topic though, but I would encourage everyone to find out early. You want to identify what's core to your belief, what are your deal breakers, and address them as early as possible. Even when you're screening, like you can address them through the online dating app if you want. You can address them through your friend before you get set up if you want, but certainly it's not inappropriate to talk about anything on the first date. I don't think. I think you don't want to waste each other's time in the future. I think it's respectful when you know that there's something that's really of paramount importance to you to bring it up early.
Don't you snap, Leah. So it depends on how it's done. No. If we're sitting down and I make a reservation at the best, you know, seafood place in the land, right? And the appetizer is $70 a pop, and we sit down and you start laying in about, I want 4 kids and I believe in marriage, and I want to, and it's like, holy shit, baby. I'm just here for a good time.
No one's going to be pounding the table like that. And foolish of you to not know these things before you get to that $70 appetizer.
No.
Yes.
What's the date for?
So before you date, don't you have conversations?
I don't have time for that.
Oh, okay. Well, good thing you're not dating.
I mean, the whole point of it, it's like, it's different of going to a date to have dinner versus going to a movie. Like, you're talking. So you're getting to know each other.
Of course. But before you even, before I even accept a date with you, I have to have conversations with you to know whether or not I feel safe enough to be able to be outside with you.
Well, that's also, that might be, I wonder if that is more of a woman thing.
You men should be making sure you feel safe too.
Whether we should or not, right? But I think, I wonder if that's
your
more.
Little head and
Leah,
think what your big head.
Who says? Do you hear this? I mean,
it's real.
It's gonna be a long night. So I wonder though, and do you have any insight to that? If that's more of a, because women, and it's not a good thing, but it's the reality. Women have certain things in certain sensors and alarms that they are raised with. So you don't leave your drink on the table and go and run and grab a napkin, right? You don't just kind of walk down the alley because that's the fastest way to get to your car. It's all these things. So in Leah's point about wanting to feel safe or needing to feel safe, I wonder if that's a different thing because of the genders.
I think that is a different thing because of the genders. Women are at a inherent physical disadvantage to men just based on size and weight. They can be overpowered in most situations. The man is bigger. That's just the math of humans, right? So women need to screen more carefully than men do to be safe, and that safety should be, I think, extended out to all kinds of safety, including mental safety, emotional safety. So the more you can screen, the better. I mean, nowadays there's so many options for meeting people. You can go through candidates like you would go through jobs. You can screen them and really filter down to the type of person you want to be spending time with before you spend time with them.
But, some people, and I've talked to a couple, some people are still, and women that they're just very, very old fashioned in the sense of where they want to meet. So whether it's at church or maybe at a job or at school, or like they're not interested in the online stuff because people have their personas. But I feel like in life, people have their masks. So you have your representative that shows up. And then as time goes on, another representative comes out, and then hopefully you can peel that onion back before you get to the crazy. Now, I wasn't fortunate enough. Leah kept all her representatives on until we got married, and then they all came off. So poor me, and thank you very much.
Lucky you.
No.
Storyteller.
No. So okay. So there was another question. So this is relating to you saying you work with couples. I didn't see this on your website, so I thought to ask. Have you ever done retreats, or do you just do typically like workshops or one-on-one or virtual things?
I have done retreats in the past. I love doing retreats because they're completely immersive.
Yes.
And you can really get a lot done. Often there's going to be no devices, or devices are going to be very frowned upon. So they'll be off or only checked during breaks or specific times.
Nice.
So I think retreats are a great way to focus on just your relationship and have it be facilitated for. So like if you decide to spend 2 days on your relationship, you guys just go take a staycation in a hotel or something, like how do you fill your time in a way that's efficient and productive and positive? And if there's facilitators in place, like at a retreat or a workshop, then you can really get a lot out of it very rapidly. You see a lot of breakthroughs.
We've had the fortune to do one years ago, and I think it really, really helped. One of the things that we did.
Oh, that was so amazing. It was so interesting.
One of the things that we did, it was an exercise of we had our backs facing each other, and she would describe like a sun and a window, and the cat is leaning outside the window, and then how that's interpreted by me, and when I would draw it, right? And then her drawing, I mean, it was night, and it couldn't be more night and day, which it just literally reiterated men and women hear differently. And it just is what it is, right? It just is. But it's very interesting to see it, the contrast of like, no, I said a sun inside the window.
No, out. So you can't even say it right.
So yeah, I'm not looking for literal.
Outside of the window.
How do you even remember that?
Because it was so crazy. It was like a cat in the windowsill looking at the sun outside of the window. Like it was just something.
All right.
And it was so like you drew the cat outside. You didn't draw the sun at all.
Leah, listen. You have to know.
Probably had a ladder in there for something.
Leah, you have to know when you like Kenny Rogers. Know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
I'm folding them.
Know when to walk away. You have to stop.
So you want me to walk away?
Jesus Christ. All right. All right. So I had a question. You're not on Audible, right?
No, not yet, but I'm going to be.
Good.
I know
okay.
That's right.
Because I'm like, he doesn't have an audiobook, but okay. All right. So as we are wrapping, there's a couple of questions and wanted to just get your opinion. quick answers or extended answers, whatever you want. What do you think about a couple playing Never Have I Ever?
Wow, what an interesting question. Okay. So I would focus on who you playing the game with, Never Have I Ever, and the social situation. So if you're playing it alone, which is usually not what's going on, it could be a great icebreaker if you ask the right questions, but it can also be a dangerous game. So a lot of it, I think, has to do with the quality of the participants. And if there's any malice in the room, or if anybody's trying to get a certain outcome, it's like playing truth. It's like a milder version of truth or dare. Like, you know what some people are trying to do when they play the game. Some people are trying to get to know each other and they're answering truths and they're digging deep. And some people are just trying to hook up as quickly as possible.
Expressing their fantasies with each other.
Partners or just people? What are you talking
Partners.
about? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate for sharing your fantasies with each other, your dreams, your visions. I don't mean your literal dreams at night. I mean your dreams for the future.
Yeah.
I think it's very important. It builds a lot of intimacy. And once you plant a seed in someone's mind and you share that, it's important to you, or that you fantasize about it, it's much more likely to happen in the future. It's never going to happen if you don't share it. But it might happen if you do.
You plant the seed in the mind, and then later that night, you plant the seed in her.
Oh, yes, Daddy.
So, role playing in public.
Role playing in public. Oh, interesting. I think that could be a lot of fun. If people do it right and they do it seriously, it can be a lot of fun. If people do it like comically and hokey, unless one of the people are really funny, it's not going to work out. And I would encourage people. Exactly. I would encourage, if people can role play seriously, it can really enhance a relationship a lot. I know many couples that they do like date nights and they like meet somewhere separately.
Yeah.
And they role play that way, and they just have it strangely lets the night or the meal or the bar experience or whatever be about just you two, because you're focused on just you and your character. There's no talk about kids when you're role playing, right?
That's right.
Sure. Do you work with anyone that is in a polyamorous relationship?
Yes.
And if so, so how does that work regarding prioritize us? Because that's a lot of prioritizing.
Yes, we sell a lot of books that way. So what's interesting is you need to take the prioritize us with each partner in the relationship, heads up. So if there's 3 people, then you're taking it with each partner in each combination. If there's more people, then that's more tests that you have to take into account. It starts to get complicated quick, but so do those relationships. The most common one that I see sustainable is like a couple that has a third, or that dates. Yeah, either a throuple or that is open and they date separately, or they date one person together.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of like polypods of like 4, 5, 6 people. It's probably biased though, because they don't come see me. Right? I don't know who they see.
Yeah, they're trying to like live their lives and figure things out. They don't want math problems, because I can't imagine us, it took a second for us to put hers and mine and then the numbers and subtract. I can't imagine doing that times 5.
Right.
No thanks. So did you have Leah had a whole mouthful, no pun intended. She had a whole mouthful before we came on, because she was like, compartmentalize.
Well, I already said it all.
I know.
Like that was just what had me kind of stuck, because I just was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But what would you like? Is there any? I know. One last thing. Sorry. What is your? Because I did hear you mention this on a show. It was regarding. So, what are your feelings on, guys' nights and girls' nights and guys' trips and girls' trips? Like, what are your feelings on that?
That's a really good question. My feelings on separate activities is that it can be healthy, but it's a slippery slope. You have to really have good frames around what's going to go on and when. And it works best when there's an equilibrium between them. So like if there is going to be a guy's night, is there a girl's night at the same time? Or are you doing them separately? Like, and how much time are you taking away from what would otherwise be quality time? Like, so it's one thing if you have to work late one night and then she goes out with the girls because you have to be working anyway and it wouldn't be time together. It's another thing if she goes out with the girls and you go out with the boys and you both come back and meet up at home afterward or whatever. And it's another thing if just one person is doing it and the other person doesn't really have the friendship group to be facilitating it or supporting it.
Yeah.
And then it starts to become a difficult equilibrium to maintain because it's so off balance when one person is socializing and the other person isn't really.
It gets colorful.
One of the things I would
to,
encourage you to
she
do.
would go to trips to get, trips for like, 15 days and stuff, and I would be home with the kids, and like, it's just unfair. But
you should be able to tell by now when he's lying.
One of the things I would encourage you to do is to make your own list of priorities when these terms don't resonate with you. So start with this as a base list and then swap them out. Like even if you want to, I don't know how old your kids are, but you can even use it with them. Like take out sex for play or for fun or sports. Substitute some of the things in the list and use it with other people. You really learn a lot about their perspectives and their whys.
I love that. So thank you so much for spending time with us. And, we like you writing this book, it was very intentional, right? And the goal was to help others because you found something in your relationship that you wanted to share and inspire. And so this show, very similarly, it's from years and years of marriage therapy, individual therapy. We know some people are not keen on therapy or they have their feelings and thoughts about it. So what we wanted to do inherently was put the medicine in the candy and kind of just have conversations, but deliver some of the tools that we learned, right? So we're delivering it in a palatable way. And so we are very mindful about the guests that we have. We don't just have, Jake's fish and chips.
Sometimes the fish and chips can do it though,
No.
Yeah.
No. Like we're very, very intentional and mindful. And so I think this is an unbelievable tool really to put into a toolbox. And, we have been very vocal about how 5 Love Languages has helped us. I think this book is, if not before, it's very much alongside in the sense of you really can understand some things differently and have some more conversations.
I think they definitely, yeah. Thank you. I do believe that they go hand in hand. I believe that you should know, how to communicate. That you should know how to communicate with each other before taking this test, because when you have vast differences, right? Not because it's just like like where do you go from here? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things. Like like you should be able to know how to talk to your partner, so that you can actually discuss how you guys can become, more aligned. If if you're not.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was thank you. Thank
you. It's my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me on the show. You guys are awesome. I had a lot of fun, and I think you have a terrific chemistry. I love what you guys are doing, and I love why you're doing it. We're so in the same direction of exactly what we're trying to accomplish, trying to help people with. I love high quality content like this. I think it's so valuable. And
thank you.
You guys should definitely keep doing it. And I really hope that you recover soon and and you'll be back stronger than ever.
Oh, I cannot wait for the day.
Yeah.
The day, the night, I don't care what time it is. I can't wait.
Because, lovemaking has been impacted because I'm not able to get, anyway.
You'll be okay.
I have to end it that way. All right. So everyone, this video will be out and the audio will be out. But for those that can see, Prioritize Us by Nick Brancato, Unlocking Lasting Love with One Simple Proven Test. It is how many? It's not a big read.
Not
it's
a lot.
232 pages, right?
That's also, that's what the intro and the outro.
So it's important. It's helpful. I looked on your website. So for a limited time, you can get the free ebook, or you can go to Amazon, right, and buy the hard copy. Well,
exactly.
The paperback, right? It's not hard copy, paperback. And Audible is going to be soon, right?
Yes.
Because that's, I love to listen to Audible books.
I've been told that I have a great voice. So if you need any voiceovers, feel free. Okay.
Okay, cool.
You have a good voice for the other.
Okay.
So thank you so much. Your website. Give the website.
How can the good people find you?
Yes.
Sure. So you can go to nickbrancato.com. I have a few spots available if anybody's interested in coaching to learn more about their priorities or in couples coaching. And if anyone's on Instagram, at personal dev coach, like personal development coach, personal dev coach, you can DM me if you have any questions or comments. And at nickbrancato.com, you can learn more.
Okay. And last question, where are you based out of?
I'm based in Vegas.
Wow.
But I'm from Jersey. Yeah.
Of course you're in Vegas.
Wow.
So I'm sure you get a lot of because there's a lot of.
He gets a lot of what exactly?
That didn't. That's not what I. See,
I don't know what you meant. I just know what you said.
Men and women communicate. My what I literally meant, and I'm not being funny, is that because Vegas is known for shotgun weddings and let's go, I would assume that he gets a lot of couples being in the vicinity that he's at.
Awesome. See how clarity works? I'm big on that. I love it. I don't know if he knew what he don't know you from a hole in the wall. And I sleep with you every night. And that could have gone anyway.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Wedlocked and Loaded. And Nick Brancato, thank you so much for what you're doing and what you continue to do. Absolutely. And we are going to be, no pun intended, locked in for the future things. So thank you so much for being with us again.
More
I love it. Thank you guys for having me.
As well.
Yes.
Oh, you gotta give him that huck too and spit on that thing. You get me?
Wedlocked and loaded.
Wedlocked and loaded.